Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Sunday Night Live here with Silver and Black today. Of course, you can hear us Monday through Fridays, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific time on Raider Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m. If you want to listen to that and you don't live in Las Vegas, we get it. We get a lot of you guys out there from around the country. You can do that at the official Raiders mobile app. It's right at the top now. You can see it. You just tap on Raider Nation Radio. You can listen to us there. You can also listen to us on their website. lvsportsnetwork.com is another place to listen to us live, as well as the TuneIn app. So we are everywhere. Of course, a huge weekend. I am Scott Gulbransen, your host, along with my co-host Q Myers. Q, how you doing, man? How's your weekend been so far?
I mean, it's been good. You know, it's what's the word? It's winding down. It is winding down. It's Labor Day weekend. Most people have tomorrow off, not us. So, it is what it is. It's a normal weekend for me.
That's right, man. It's all about finding those moments in between the work, right? But we could not. I mean, we could have sort of taken Monday off, but no way with Raider Nation going crazy. And of course, roster cutdowns coming this past Saturday, yesterday. Big stuff to talk about. We're gonna tease a little bit about that, Q, of course. But then we're going to save a lot of it for the show tomorrow as well. A couple things. Number one, this live stream is brought to you by our friends at Sam and Ash Injury Attorneys. Make sure you check them out. You know, if you're in a car wreck, you have something like that going on, a personal injury case. It's just not about hiring anybody. You got to hire somebody who's got the experience to make sure you do it. And that's Sam and Ash. Check out samandash.com for them. They're also the sponsor of our radio show, so we appreciate their support. Also, Dr. Jen's Ultimate Protein Bar. Now, Q and I talk about this on every show. They have been fantastic with us. We both eat Dr. Jen's Ultimate Protein Bars. I eat them every day, Q. I don't know if you had one, Tay. I never get sick of them.
No, I do mine Monday through Friday, but they're really, really good. I mean, they're excellent, and so they're my go-to. I have them every day before I go on my other radio show. So, I try to, on the weekends, just kind of relax and not worry about them. But Monday through Friday, I'm all about Jen's nutrition bar. It's all good.
That's right. Check out drjensnutrition.com. Use the code SBT10, and you get a discount, plus you get free shipping. Trust us, they are awesome. They are part of Raider Nation, season ticket holders for the Raiders, big Raider fans. So support them as they support your team as well. And lastly, I have to say, we have on the podcast side, here on the video side, Manscaped. Manscaped, the new lawnmower 3.0. You got to take care of your brothers below the waist. You know what I'm saying here? And the Manscaped Perfect Package, Ultimate Package, 3.0. If you use the code GULLY, GULLY, you get 20% off plus free shipping. Go to manscaped.com for that one. All right, enough of talking about that. Let's talk about footballs instead of your balls. Yes, instead of your balls, we're going to talk footballs. And Q, yesterday we get final roster cuts, at least for now. And of course, the big surprise, and we're going to start off with this one just because we have to. It was kind of the moment of Saturday, which was the Raiders trade Lynn Bowden Jr. to the Dolphins for a 4th-round draft pick. They also send a 6th-round conditional draft pick to the Dolphins, to Miami, with what was supposed to be one of the most dynamic players in the draft. That pick was heralded by all the draft experts, by the way. I know now we know it as a quote-unquote miscue, but everybody loved this pick when the Raiders made it in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I know everyone loved the pick, and everyone thought that he was going to be a big-time player, So, unfortunately for the Raiders, they weren't able to cash in. He just wasn't able to make it happen, and unfortunately, it's a big miss. It's a whiff. I mean, there's no way you can, dress it up and make it look better. It's a whiff. I mean, Mayock and Gruden totally missed on that pick. Unfortunately, that's what it is, but that's what it is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's the thing I'm seeing today. And I've had people really taking shots at the Raiders. Maybe people don't have a lot of depth in watching their games and knowing what's going on, but a lot of criticism, and it's fair. I think to say, hey, listen, fair. You miss on a 3rd-round draft pick. It's not an easy thing. It's not something you just go say, oh, well, they missed on a 3rd-round draft pick. Right. No, because they took Brian Edwards right behind Lynn Bowden Jr. He's worked out so far. We haven't seen him play on the field, okay, but so far so good as far as what we're hearing and seeing in practice. But you miss on a 3rd rounder, it's bad. It just, there's no other way to do it. But I will say this, and I got some criticism for this, Q, was I said, look, you missed on it, but you owned it right away. You didn't let it fester. Some people think Brandon Parker, again, someone else drafted very early.
Yeah.
They feel like he should be gone. Now, Mike Mayock reasserted today on the phone call that no, Brandon Parker's developing and they want to continue doing that. But with other mistakes, the Raiders have gone on and on and on. At least with this one, they recognize it, moved on. Doesn't take away the sting, right?
I mean, no, it doesn't. It's a miss. It's a whiff. It's a bad look. Mike Mayock before the draft said if you have 3rd-round draft picks, that means you're stealing starters. Those are starters that you're getting. And look, 2 out of the 3 guys that they got out of the 3rd round aren't playing. True. I mean, and that's the best way you can sum it up. I mean, the way you look at it and the way I look at it, I stepped back and took a couple steps back. Matter of fact, I looked at it and said, you know what? The 3rd round stunk. They did a terrible job in the 3rd round. They got Brian Edwards, and maybe he's going to be that guy. Everyone's been talking about him, but Tanner Muse, he's on IR, and now Lynn Bowden Jr., he's in Miami. They whiffed. They blew it in the 3rd round.
They did. And you look at some of our colleague Mo Moten had talked about a guy that he was on our show for months and months cheering about, which was Zach Moss. Zach Moss in Buffalo may start as their tailback.
Right.
So there's a guy they could have picked if they were really looking. They wanted Lynn Bowden. Lynn Bowden, remember, wide receiver to quarterback, and then he comes to the NFL and you're going to switch him to running back. Right. So that's not on him. That's not on the player. Now, we'll get to the supposed off the field issues in a second. But when you look at Lynn Bowden Jr., it's not his fault that they asked him to play a position that he wasn't prepared to play.
No, it's not, and the reason that they gave up on him so quickly is still remain to be seen. I mean, when he goes to Miami, we'll see what he does, if he ends up being a player or not. But I mean, obviously they saw something in practice that they weren't very happy with, and they moved on from him. But yeah, I mean, if you give up on a 3rd round pick that quickly and you're asking him to change positions, then there's something going on. You know what I mean? So clearly they saw something that they didn't like, but I'm not very happy with it, only because I was banging the table for a big time running back, a big time, like a bigger body running back. I was pounding the table for that for the longest, and they ultimately didn't go get it. And they wanted Lynn Bowden Jr. to be a running back, and they announced that when they drafted him. And well, it didn't pan out. So now, and no disrespect to Devontae Booker, I'm not very overwhelmed by Devontae Booker. I'm thinking, okay, that's great.
Yeah, and Q, you've been very consistent about the running back position and what you thought that the Raiders would need, that kind of big bodied back. And of course, then even this week, you and I disagreed on Adrian Peterson, but you said, hey, why not bring him in? Right. You have a need at running back. Now that need is still there, right? So you have Booker. They're going to count on Booker to be the guy if Jacobs needs to have a blow on the sideline, they're going to bring him in and hope for the best. But yeah, that's the question that I have with it is, look, it's you're going to miss on picks, right? But in the 3rd round, the first pick you had in the 3rd round with who was available, if you were looking for a true running back to come in and be that complement to Josh Jacob. Why would you go with a guy that's a project, basically? They have to do. And the same thing, I've used the same argument with Tanner Muse. You're converting him to the position of linebacker after he really played that hybrid safety position at Clemson. And I get it. He might be a talented kid, and I'm not giving up on him yet. But clearly, he's not going to be on the opening roster. He's got a bad toe, and now he's going to start the season on IR, basically, where he can come off IR. Right. And so, to me, you're right. You've whiffed on that round, except for Brian Edwards.
Exactly. And then Brian Edwards, he's the guy that you're expecting to save the round. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be the guy that's going to save round 3, and that's the problem. You had 3 third-round picks, and only one of them is going to come through come the beginning of the season. That's the problem. You've got to be able to hit on guys that are going to be there for you. Like Mike Mayock said, the third round is for starters. Those are 3 starters that they should have got. Correct. And instead, they got a guy on IR, they got a guy in Miami, and they got a guy in Brian Edwards that everyone thinks is going to be the dude. And hopefully he will be, but until it's actually done on the grass, you won't know.
Right. Our good friend Watts Raider says, "Hey man, if we continue to build drafts, Mayock didn't blow it. That's a bit far-fetched." At Watts Raider, he blew it with that pick.
He blew it.
I mean, he admitted it today on the call. He said, "Hey, it's 100% on me." He didn't say I blew it, but that's what he was saying. And again, I appreciate him owning it. How it impacts the 2020 team, Q, is going to be the big question, because if Josh Jacobs, knock on wood, God forbid, something goes wrong and he's got to sit out a game or two, if Devontae Booker can't pick up the slack, and we don't expect him to be Josh Jacobs, don't get me wrong, but if Devontae Booker can't pick up the slack, then what?
Right. Well, the thing that I keep going back to is when he was drafted, and I know the Raiders said he was a running back, everybody and their mother said he'll end up being a slot corner. Everybody, or a slot a wide receiver. Excuse me. Yeah. Everybody and their mother said he's going to be a slot wide receiver. That's who he is. And the Raiders let him be a running back, and he didn't pick it up, and so they moved on from him. So ultimately, is he just not a guy that could be a running back and needs to be a slot wide receiver? If so, then you need to use him as a slot wide receiver. You know what I mean? You got a third-round pick, use him. But unfortunately, they moved on from him.
Well, and that's the key is look, I get you see a player like that. He's dynamic. He can do a lot of different things. That's fine. But to take him with your first pick in the third round when you're not certain, you're just not. I mean, there's no way they could be certain that he could make the conversion to running back. He had never played the position, and then he gets out there, and when he doesn't do it, again, I know a lot of Raider Nation, when a guy gets cut, man, they turn on them. You're not silver and black, you're our enemy. And I get that piece of it when you meet on the football field. But and what this kid did off the field, we don't know, and we'll get into it again in a second. But to me, though, when you ask a guy to come in and play a position that he has never played, and then ask him to do it in the NFL, that's tough. So again, yes, Mayock owns that decision. He said it. So I think you can move on from it. But again, if they don't have consistency at the running back position this year because of this, then it becomes a bigger problem. So how big of a problem it is, we won't know until we get rolling, until we move into that schedule queue.
And to be honest, I wasn't 100% convinced that he was going to be a good running back anyway. You know what I mean? I've been concerned about the depth at the running back position. You got Jacobs, you got Richard. Everything else, and Alec Ingold, but he's a fullback. But everything else is just kind of like a crapshoot. I've not been convinced with anybody that they brought in outside of, obviously Jacobs and Richard. I'm not a big believer in Booker. He might end up being the guy, but he's had 37 carries in 2 years. You know what I mean?
He's a reclamation.
Yeah, exactly. Show me something. Now, if he turns out to be a guy, then he's a big time project that turned positive. But I don't believe it until I see it. So I think the running back position, the lack of depth is a huge issue.
It is. Derek B here says, why not re-sign DeAndre Washington, which Derek, if you listen to our radio show, we talked about that this week, actually, because on Tuesday, before he was cut, Q and I had talked about the fact that it looked like he might be cut in Kansas City. He knows the system, had a nice year last year. We'll see. It doesn't look like they've reached out to him. They signed the guy out of Tampa Bay already, by the way, to the squad. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's the thing, Q. Now, if we look at what happened with Lynn Bowden Jr. Now, when I was at a practice, again, and when I've talked to people inside the organization as of yesterday, there was a lot of comments, and I'll keep these generic as not to divulge who they are, but a lot of them said, look, didn't have any friends on the team, didn't talk to many guys, was not well liked by guys. And so when you go in, you can be an individual, you can have a different personality. The Raiders have plenty of those. But when you go in there and if your teammates aren't feeling it from you and they're not feeling you're part of it, then you add in the football piece of it. Then you had the Vic Tafur story in The Athletic. If you haven't read it, go read it, where he said that people in the organization were concerned with what he was doing away from the field. Nothing illegal or anything like that. But he was very into, hey, just got a lot of money. And as anybody, and even when I got my first job and I got the first big check that I thought was big, you kind of spend money and you get distracted by that because you've never had it before. So he goes out and he does that. And so some of the team members, according to Vic Tafur sources, were concerned about that, and it might have distracted him. And then they didn't see what they saw on the football field, Q. But no matter what it is, it just didn't click. And sometimes, as big of a miss as it is, sometimes it just happens that way.
Yeah, it does, and it's unfortunate. So who knows, exactly what the nuts and bolts were that made Lynn Bowden a guy that the Raiders decided they needed to trade. But at the end of the day, if they didn't feel like he was going to benefit the team, at least they were able to find a trade partner and get something for him instead of just release him. If they had just flat out released him, then it would have been like, whoa, that's a major whiff. I mean, even though it was a whiff, at least they got something back in return for him. So basically what they did is they gave Lynn Bowden Jr. to the Dolphins for Raekwon McMillan.
That's right. Yeah, and a couple draft picks they swapped. And you have to wonder, too, because sometimes that does occur where a trade happens, and if they don't have all the details worked out, or in this case, with cuts coming up and the Raiders and the Dolphins perhaps looking to jockey for some positioning with other players, they wait on the back half of the trade. So maybe it was included from the beginning. I guess we'll never know. But at the same time, you're right. That's what they traded for. And, it's a tough one, and I think that, a lot of folks are going to want to comment on it, and a lot of folks are going to want to focus on it, but it's done. It is. I think
you got to move on from it.
Yeah. DeVell, again, our good viewers here, he's saying the lack of pass pro capabilities and lack of explosion hurt him. Yes, that's absolutely true. Dr. Andy, if he sucks at Miami, then this conversation is moot. I think
Which is very true. Yeah. And how many times does a guy leave the Raiders and end up like washing out in the whole league? All the time. It happens a lot. Sometimes, and GMs do this, sometimes GMs just miss.
Yeah, it happens.
Sometimes a guy looks good in college and he just sucks in the NFL. I mean, just put it point blank. He just sucks in the NFL, and he wasn't getting it. Lynn Bowden Jr. did not sound like he was getting it. So be it. And
there's guys. I mean, remember C.J. Spiller out of Clemson? He was going to be the greatest thing ever. Never made it, and that was a first rounder. So
remember
I think
his quarterback out of Clemson.
Yes, I do. And you talk about all of this, and it's funny because on our radio show, we've been talking about everybody. When we were talking about Yannick Ngakoue and we were talking about Clowney, and we're talking about these guys, and you and I at different points were in favor of maybe going after them to improve that defense. And what do we hear from people? No, you got to keep those draft picks. They've hit on all these draft picks. Guess what? You don't hit on all the draft picks.
Right.
So that's why with draft picks, it's just as much of a gamble as anything else. And in this case, we'll see how much it hurts them. It's a whiff, but how much it hurts them, we don't know. The other thing too, and I know you and I were texting about this, Q, earlier, was I'm seeing a lot of folks, even in the comments too here, about Lynn Bowden Jr. off the field, and wow, he was in Vegas. Okay, again, Vegas seems like there's more distractions than other places, and I get it. If the day clubs were open and the nightclubs were open, maybe so. Everything's still closed here, by the way. The bars are closed. And if you're a young guy who's come into money for the first time in your life, you could be here, you could be in Miami, you could be in Los Angeles, you could be in, I won't use Cleveland, you could be in other parts of the country and get in trouble too. So for me, I know it's because I live here and I've been here a long time, but it's not just Vegas. There's not like extra trouble to get in here. Yeah, you can gamble. That wasn't his issue, right? So I think that when you talk about guys and maturity and coming into those things, those are things the Raiders have to manage. You don't hear the problem with Henry Ruggs. You don't hear the problem with other guys too. It's a case-by-case basis. And unfortunately, even though Mike Mayock on the call today said it had nothing to do with off-the-field issues, it was all 100% football. Young guys, when I was 21, I lived in Las Vegas, and boy, did I do some stupid stuff. So I get it.
Right, exactly. I mean, again, when you're a young dude who's never been anywhere near Vegas and you've been broke your whole life and you've been in basically the slums and that's basically the area he's come from.
Youngstown.
When you get to Vegas and you got a whole pocket full of money, you might act a fool. You might act crazy. You might get out there and this is the thing. It's not even necessarily you're doing anything wrong, but you're out there and you're just doing too much. You're extra busy because, well, I want to go adventure and I want to go see everything. And that's natural, man. I mean, when you get a 21-year-old who doesn't want to do that, that's different. That's a guy who separates himself. 21-year-olds, when I was 21, when I was 19, when I was 20, I wanted to be out at the scene. Hell, when I was 40, I wanted to be out at the scene. You know what I mean? I just basically now slow down to the point where I don't want to be at the scene. So a guy that's got a pocket full of money and he's in an area he's never been in, he might venture out a little bit, even though it's not popping like we know it. But I can see that. I can see that being an issue. And that's something we talked about when the Raiders went to Vegas. Like, hey, you've got to find some guys that are mature enough to be able to handle the opportunities that are in front of them. Even if they don't take them, the opportunity is still there.
Raider 27, Muse sounds like a promising player that needs more time stashed on IR. My contention has always been, I'm not saying Tanner Muse can't be a good player in the NFL, but they chose him very high for what he is, just like they did obviously with Lynn Bowden, because those guys aren't ready to play. Now, you can say he's got a toe injury and that's fine, but I watched him in practice and he was struggling anyway. But that's not to say the book is written on Tanner Muse. We'll have to see how he does. And if he can start by becoming a good special teams player, I mean, heck, you heard today Mayock was talking about Eric Harris because they asked about Demarius Randall and why he was gone. And he said, look, it's not so much what Demarius did or didn't do. It's Eric Harris beat him out. And Eric Harris is underrated. Right. People don't give Eric Harris the credit he deserves. By the way, I am going to play Mike Mayock. Here's what Mike Mayock had to say about Lynn Bowden. We've been talking about it, and I haven't played it yet, so here it is.
Well, let me make a couple of points. Number one, it was a football decision only. And character off the field, the kid did absolutely nothing wrong. We did all our homework on the kid off the field. He worked his tail off. He came to work every day. So this was completely a football decision, had nothing to do with anything else. Quite frankly, I think the position change is a difficult one in any year, but it's exaggerated in a COVID year with no off season. So you're taking a kid that was a slot receiver in 18, a quarterback in 19, and asking him to play running back in 20. And, really, the only other thing I'm going to say about it is, that it was my call. He was not able to play today at the level expected. And because of that, we felt like we had to make a move. And again, it's 100% on me.
Well, there you go, Q. I mean, he owned it, which he should. And he said it right in the answer. I mean, we asked him to do something very hard to do, especially in a year where you had no OTAs, you had no mini camps. All that stuff. The kid was not set to succeed. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, but to me, I don't know, man. I mean, I hear what Mike Mayock is saying, but if he did everything he had to do and he just didn't make it as a running back, but yet he was a really good slot receiver, which is what he was in college, I think that a team would say, you know what? We can't make him a running back, but he's still a hell of a player, and we're going to make that happen. Instead, they decided to move on from him and trade him. I'm not buying that 100% what Mike Mayock is selling when he says that, it was all 100% football. I don't buy that. If it was 100% football, he would still be a Raider, but that's just my opinion.
No, and listen, we saw Vic's story in The Athletic. The folks I've talked to in the organization who've told me a little bit about just the kind of awkwardness and that he wasn't able to connect with people on the team. That makes sense because look, it doesn't matter how much talent a guy has if he's not going to fit in, if he's not going to work in your offensive system, if he's not going to be able to make the adjustments, and you're willing to get rid of him. That tells you that you don't have any hope for him at any position on your team. Now, that doesn't mean he can't go to Miami and have a good career as a kick returner and as a slot receiver. If
Vegas was the issue for him, Miami is going to be an issue for him as well.
I agree 100%. All right, Fabian, our good friend Fabian. My one concern is injuries. Do we really have the depth? The answer to me, Q, is no.
Easy. Not at all. And it's funny because 2 weeks ago, the depth looked a lot better. And I said that on our group text. I was like, man, the depth of the roster of the Raiders looked a lot better 2 weeks ago than it does right now. Right now, it looks like if you get one major guy go down with the injury, then your season could be in a position that it was last year. where you got
Right.
guys filling in that can't really hold up to the level of play. And then that's the problem. And so that could really derail the Raiders in 2020. So they've got to be able to find a way to get it done in 2020. And hopefully they can keep their guys healthy, because if not, they really could be in some trouble.
Well, and here's the thing, Q. The surprise to me now, they've kind of righted the ship on this, because when they cut Sam Young, I was shocked. I really was.
That was your guy.
Well, I've been beating the drum for him since the beginning, but I also thought that they have no depth there. And so you're going to tell me when that list came out and Sam Young was on there, I'm like, okay, so now you've made Brandon Parker your swing tackle. If you've made Brandon Parker your swing tackle, and we've talked about this, he is good against the run. The kid is solid against the run. He shows promise there. Against the pass, he's trash, right? So until they can develop him, to me, going into the season with him there was a shocker. It really was. Now, Sam Young today, Mike Mayock said with the Tanner Muse going to the IR, Sam Young will come back to the active roster, which is good to hear. But I'm just really, really concerned with them, more so at the offensive line positions with at tackle, with depth there, because if something happens to Trent Brown, we don't know how healthy Trent Brown is. We still don't know. Okay. If something happens to him, something happens to Colton Miller, what do you do? Now, Young can play both sides, which is good. But what do you do?
Well,
so we both have the answer, which is we don't have an answer.
I mean, really,
but it's true.
We said it for a while. The tackle position is a struggle. It really is. I don't believe in Brandon Parker at all. I think he's a really good, like I said, a run blocker. But as far as pass blocking, he's not very good. So if he's in the game, there's problems. And the Raiders don't have the depth there. They have depth at the guard position, which is great, but not tackle position. So it's a big time concern. And again, when you look at the overall product that the Raiders roster is, it doesn't look as good as it did 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, it looked really sexy, looked like it had a lot of depth, looked like it could, pretty much compete with any roster in the league. Now it's like, there's a bunch of holes there, and that's a problem.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, that the Raiders announced the practice squad as well. If you guys didn't see it, some familiar names on that practice squad include Marcel Aitman, Nick Bowers, Jordan Brown, Keelan Doss, of course. Then also a kicker, the Dominic Eberle from Utah State. Yes, they have a kicker on there. Madre Harper, of course, Dayton Jones, Dylan Mabin, Eric Magnuson, Theo Riddick, the veteran that was signed late in camp, Chris Smith, and Javen White, our guy Javen White, which is good that he's on the practice squad. That's the kind of developmental player you want. And it's going to be interesting to see, Q, though, because that's the concern. I did get in a Twitter discussion with our colleague from our sister station at ESPN 1100 here in Las Vegas, Tyler Bischoff. He does the morning show there, where he was really criticizing
the Raiders.
Hater.
He hates the Raiders.
He does. But he was going on there and he was questioning, well, you had all these holes on defense and you drafted one defensive player or one cornerback, and you drafted Tanner Muse, who he said was a bust. And I pushed back on him just to say, look, they had issues at wide receiver too. Yeah. And Brian Edwards was a key need. That X position, they had to find somebody to replace Terrell Williams in a year anyway. But if you look at the Raiders had the least amount of red zone targets of wide receivers in the entire league. So you signed the two best linebackers you could in free agency on the defense. You addressed the defense, and that was my point to him. But he did bring up the point, which is, look, you can't miss on third rounders. And I didn't disagree with him on that one. And he's right. And I think, too, again, I see a lot of you guys in chats talking about, well, yeah, he missed, so what? Let's move on. And I agree to a certain point. But again, that was your first third-round pick. Yeah. Brian Edwards, I mean, if he'd come at the bottom of the third round, it still would have been bad. But they chose him over Edwards first. So that told you that they really liked it. And a lot of people blaming Gruden, right? Oh, that was Gruden. I don't think so. I think it was actually Mayock, because he admitted that today. Look, this is on me. And I really believe that. Those guys go in and they fight for certain players. And I think this was a Mayock guy.
I mean, I don't even care, to be honest. I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't care who is the guy who fought for him. It was a whiff. It was just, you went and you pulled the trigger on the guy and he didn't work out and you traded him. And you only got a fourth round in return, which again is what you gave up for Raekwon McMillan, which is on a 1-year deal?
One-year deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's disappointing because there was running backs that were available at the time. I think that was a position that's been heavily ignored. and not addressed the right way. I saw Buster's Place on our group chat here asked, only difference is Tyrell. No, Tyrell Williams, yeah, that's a big loss. Lynn Bowden Jr. was supposed to be a big time. That's a big loss. I mean, he was sold as a big time playmaker. That's a big loss. Yeah.
He was supposed to come in at running back, Q, but then also we heard, he's going to be the Joker.
Exactly. We heard that all the time. And then if you flip the ball over to the defensive side of the ball, Demarius Randall's gone. Prince Makamura's gone. I mean, those are two guys that helps with the depth. The depth that the Raiders had 2 weeks ago is totally different than what they have right now. And right now they look very thin. Whereas if they go and get a couple injuries early in the season like they did in 2019, then all of a sudden you're looking at, they could be in some trouble. And that's unfortunate because, again, it looked like they had some good quality depth where they don't have that now.
And I agree. I think for us, if we look at for what we've been talking about on the show, and we had Mo on Friday, his usual segment, and he predicted the Raiders would go 8-8. And I was pushing, you and I both said 9-7, maybe 10-6 if things go really well. But the 8-8 looks a lot more realistic right now after what we saw today. And that doesn't mean, look, I'm not getting negative on it. And there's our good friend, my former co-host Kelly Kreiner. You draft a wide receiver that played QB, move him to running back, and bail on him already. Yeah, no, that's what we've been talking about, Kelly. I even used your word trash on the air. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You look at how they're going to fare this season, and there's just more unknowns than even we had 5 days ago. Q.
Exactly. And so I'm concerned. I'm really concerned again because they need to make a splash this year in Vegas, but it looks like, who knows? Again, they could make that same splash, but they better not get no injuries because if they do get some guys injured, it's a problem.
That's it too. And then there have been guys on the waiver wire that they have not gone to grab, and it's surprising a little bit, I guess, as folks on the outside we look at it. Maybe they know things we don't, but it's still very concerning what's going to happen with that one. But tomorrow on the radio show, we're going to go through all of this and talk more about the roster. Our guest tomorrow, of course, our normal Monday slot with Hondo Carpenter. Hondo will keep everything positive as he usually does, but also Hondo tells the truth. So he will, I'm sure, talk a lot about Lynn Bowden tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that. We'll also have Josh Edwards from CBS Sports National. He'll be on to talk about the NFL cutdowns, the Raiders too, but also around the league. What other surprises did we see? How could that impact the Raiders, whether it was in Kansas City, in the AFC West, Denver, and elsewhere. So we'll talk to him about that as well. And then Jesse Merrick from Channel 3 here in town will be with us too, and he'll give us his impressions. He's at practice every single day as well, so we'll get his impressions about Lynn Bowden, about the other Raiders who made the squad and did not make the squad, as we talk about that on our Monday show. But Q, let's see. Adrian Peterson still around. Devonta Freeman still available. Yes, Freeman is still available.
Yeah,
Peterson's signed
in Detroit. He signed with the Lions.
Yep. He signed with the Lions today. And, of course, Jadeveon Clowney signed as well, as we know.
That's fine. Who cares?
Yeah.
No, seriously.
That boat had sailed. That's
the Titans' problem. That's Tennessee's problem now. I mean, seriously, Jadeveon Clowney, I promise you, is going to get hurt this year. And I'm not wishing that on him. I hate that for the NFL, but I know that he's going to get hurt because that's just who he is.
Yeah. Fierce Raider says, I don't see it happening. Broncos are not dealing with the issues we are, and I do not like the consistent media attention we keep getting around the moves we make. Fierce Raider, it's the Raiders. Whatever moves they make, they're going to get attention, mostly negative and some positive, right? It's a big brand that always happens when the Raiders do something, especially now with Mayock and Gruden there, and now in Vegas. It's going to make news, so you better get used to it. That's never going to change. I really don't think it will. But if Damon Arnett struggles, shaking my head. Uncle Joe, man, he's looked really good again. Until they strap it on and get it on for real, we don't know. Everybody out there, we're going to know here in a few days and figure it out. But Q, I think you going into that first game in Carolina, we'll learn an awful lot because Carolina, even though they have some good players on offense, Christian McCaffrey, outside of that, they're rebuilding. So if the Raiders are significantly better than they were last year, or at least better than they were last year, we should see them go to Carolina and handle that team pretty well.
Exactly. They should. Now, if they don't, that's a problem. I mean, really, because I don't think the defense of the Carolina Panthers is going to be very good. I know what Matt Rule is going to do there as a head coach. He's going to try to rebuild, and I respect that. And he's a hell of a coach. He's going to get them right. but they're not going to be right week 1. And so if the Raiders struggle and pull out one of their victories at the end, like they usually do, where it's like a heart attack waiting to happen, that's going to be a problem. But we'll see. So they need to go in there, and they should put them away, like, I don't know, midway third quarter. But again, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. Or is it better? Is it a question if we're better than last year? Raider more, if it depends on the field, man. It's all about wins and losses.
The team is better. The roster is better than last year's, but it's still thin. It was, in my opinion, again, it's just my opinion, and we all know what opinions are. But in my opinion, a couple weeks ago, the roster was a lot thicker than it is now. Right now, it's razor thin, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right as far as some of the question marks, right? Because if everybody stays healthy, I think they could do really, really well.
Tyrell Williams is a big loss. A lot of people don't think that's a big loss. That's a big loss. He's a veteran. He's not number 1 wide receiver, but he's a big loss. Henry Ruggs is going to be a good player, I believe. Brian Edwards is going to be a good player. Hunter Renfrow, we know what he's going to do. But all these guys are all young, and they're going to try to develop at the same time, and they had no time on the grass this offseason. So I think it's going to be a learning curve. You're expecting a lot from young guys, and maybe they'll step up and be that dude, or maybe they'll be slow to the process. And if they're slow to the process, the Raiders could be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you focus on this. It's not focusing on the negative. I saw some comments there. That's not what it's about. It's about looking and being realistic. Our job is not here to cheerlead. And so if you want to hear just the positive stuff, which we are, you and I are very positive. So I don't know. I mean, we get a lot of.
There's other podcasts that will talk about everything through silver and black glasses, and I'm not that guy.
No, either am I. And also, it's you can't please everybody. I understand it. If you guys are tuning in to just get all positive and everything's rosy, then that's not going to be it. Because I think this team is like Q said. You said it so well. It's better. The roster's better, but it's not a lot deeper. It's better. They've improved at those positions. I mean, last year you had no linebackers, right? You had Tahir Whitehead, who tried what he could to play. He just wasn't the player he used to be. Now you have a real linebacking core. You have good defensive backs, right? But they're unproven. Except for Eric Harris and some of those guys back there. So you have to look at it that way and say, look, yeah, one man deep, a lot better. But past that is the question mark. And in the NFL, you have injuries, and it is a game of attrition. It's the war analogy comes in there. You have got to have depth. If you look at teams that win championships, they have depth. They go 2-3 men deep at most positions. And if they don't, they have a guy who can come over and cover from another position and is talented enough to do that. And the Raiders just aren't there yet. Doesn't mean they won't get there. They've built this roster completely over, especially on defense. So I understand they're going to take time. But when we tell you that the roster's thin at certain points, don't tell us we're being negative. We're being truthful.
Exactly right. And, I feel good about the team. I feel good about the direction that they're going. But again, a couple of weeks ago, I felt a lot better about the whole team and the depth of the team, because again, you're only as good. And I saw someone put up on our comments, like, you're only as good as your backup tackles. You're only as good as the depth on your team. If you have quality guys that back up your starters, then you have a chance to make it happen, because guys will go down. Guys need to step up in a major way. I mean, really, honestly, right now, who backs up Josh Jacobs that you feel comfortable with? I mean, seriously. Yeah. Don't tell me Devontae Booker. He's had 37 carries in 2 years. I mean, there's a reason for that. He was healthy in 2019. He only had like 2 carries.
Yeah. Well,
there's a reason for that.
And the other running back that they signed, and again, I'm a big Notre Dame football fan, so I was happy to see Theo Riddick, but he's in the same position. I mean, he was out last year. He's only carried the ball a few times. Yes, they're good pass catching running backs, but that doesn't mean that they're going to come out and help you. So a big shout out to Uncle Joe, $2. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for that super chat. Also, though, Mystic Plot, I honestly think we have depth at most places. I don't agree with you, man. Explain it, because where's the depth at safety? Where's the depth at offensive tackle? Where's the depth at running back? Where's the depth at linebacker outside of 2 or 3 guys? I mean, really.
Why do we think that a guy is going to all of a sudden be a superstar? I mean, why?
I don't know.
And this is not I'm not trying to send shots, but that Raider fan said, it's a new year. Booker may suddenly become a great player, Q. Why? You know what I mean? Why now? Tigers don't change their stripes. You know what I mean? If I wasn't a good employee last year, what makes me think I'm going to be a good employee this year? Tigers don't change their stripes. You are who you are. This dude had 2 carries in 2019 for a reason.
Yeah.
In 16 games, he had 2 carries for 9 yards. And in 2018, in 16 games, 34 carries for 183 yards. I mean, like, what makes you think he's going to be able to be a guy that can really back up Josh Jacobs and you have confidence in him now?
Right.
And that's the thing. That's my only question. That's my question.
Right. And you've been saying for a month now that we've been on the air with Raider Nation Radio, you need a back. You need a change of pace back behind Jacobs, right? So they didn't draft one. They could have drafted one.
Yeah.
They thought they drafted one in Lynn Bowden Jr. and they just shipped him to Miami for a 5th or for a 4th rounder. So again, it's one of those deals where, and thank you, Jose, for the super chat. We appreciate it, man. You say we need to add a veteran wide receiver and we need another safety. Agree on the safety. Veteran wide receiver, we'll see. Zay Jones technically is a veteran. I know he's young. That's who they're counting on, though. That's who they're counting on.
I think they need a veteran running back.
Yeah.
That's what they need. They need a guy that's a big body that can run downhill and get you some tough yards. That's what they need. When the Raiders had they had Charlie Garner, they had Tyrone Wheatley, and they had Zach Crockett. That's what they need. They got Josh Jacobs, hell of a player. They got Jalen Richard. He's a really good player. They need a big body guy. Detroit, they got Adrian Peterson on a $1.05 million deal. That would have been an ideal player to get for the Raiders for the next couple seasons, or at least one season, but they didn't get him. They need a back in the shape of an Adrian Peterson or somebody like that that can at least be strong, be big, and run downhill.
DeVell, our good friend DeVell, says running back is a plug-and-play position.
So who are you plugging in?
Exactly.
So plug somebody. Who you plugging in?
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
don't know. That position angers me because I feel like I mean seriously, and this is why. Because I feel like running back gets disrespected so much. It's such an important position in the NFL, but yet it gets like, oh well, you can get one anywhere, and that's not the case. You can get a running back, or you can get a really good running back. You know what I mean? And I just feel like running back gets crapped on all the time, and I just don't like that. And the Raiders don't have the quality depth where they should be.
Well, and then this offense for the Raiders too. You remember because a lot of people like to decry the downfall, or I should say, talk about the downfall of running backs in the NFL, right? Because it's not the same as it used to be. Right. You don't have to have that, but at the same time, this offense that they run, you do count on that running back for a lot of different things, including pass catching, including running. It's a ball control offense, so you have to have somebody. And if it's that plug and play, then you wouldn't need another running back. You could just go out and sign anybody off the street, and they could come in and play it. But in this system, it's not true. Kelly, again, just move your best safety back to safety. So he's talking about LaMarcus Joyner there.
Agreed 100%. And he's listed on the roster right now as a safety. So maybe they are. Maybe I know Vic Tavor said it's not going to happen, but maybe that's what they're going to do. And I saw someone else say that, hey, Q, we only got $4 million in cap space. Look, Adrian Peterson costs $1 million. $1 million. That's it. The Detroit Lions, who don't run the ball at all, they haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher. Think about this. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Reggie Bush.
Right. It's incredible.
And they went and grabbed him for $1 million. The Raiders could have done the same.
Yeah.
What happened when Josh Jacobs went down last year?
Well, Raider Moore just brought it up. Jacobs goes down. We're screwed.
And that's what happened last year. Jacobs went down, and he even played through injury, and the Raiders were still screwed.
Broken shoulder. Yeah. And that's the thing. You have to look at Corey here. It's okay, guys. We're not cursed with the injury jinx like the Chargers. No, you're just cursed with the no depth issue.
Right.
Not the injury issue. But if you get injured, and injuries are going to happen, guys are going to go down. It doesn't matter what part of the field. So you have to be able to step up. And in some places, wide receiver, everybody focuses on wide receiver. We'll see how they do. But man, I just look at that offense. I'm thinking everybody's, they're going to be a top 10 offense. Well, on paper, it looked that way at the beginning of camp.
Yeah.
But now you look at the lack of depth at running back. You look at offensive tackle, and you think, man, if Brown goes, what if Brown and Miller went down? Whoa. I mean,
you're done. Yeah, you're done.
You're done. And then your quarterback gets killed too. So you have to be very careful. So to me, that's the issue is we are in a situation when you look at the Raiders and you say to yourself, okay, if everything goes swimmingly, then you're fine. But if it doesn't, or if a player doesn't work out, because injuries pop up all the time, especially remember, I can't emphasize this enough, Q, with this weird off season. I'm telling you, man, there's going to be a lot more things, freaky stuff that happens, injuries, hamstring stuff. They've been working out, but they only had 14 padded practices, man.
Right.
It's going to be ugly at times. I'm telling you.
But yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And so it's going to be, it's kind of like one of those things where you just have to see how it goes. And once they get started, and it's going to happen next Sunday. I mean, think about it. This time next week, we're going to be talking about a game. We're going to be talking about what actually happened on the field, and what players stepped up and what players didn't. So that's the exciting part. But yeah, I mean, we don't know. We absolutely don't know. And now I saw Diego. He chimed in and said AP has domestic abuse history. Now, I will say, and I'm just going to get on my soapbox real quick.
Go.
Only thing Adrian Peterson did was punish his kids. The only thing he did was say that they couldn't do whatever they were doing, and he punished them like any other parents in the country have or can do. I never did agree at all with the punishment that he got. I thought it was over the top. I thought that they went way too much on it, and it's one of those situations where you can't be the person you are. Again, kids need to be punished, and that's what he did, and he did it the way that he was raised to do it, the way that he was punished when he was coming up. I never found a problem with that. I thought that was the biggest BS ever put on anyone's career. I'll go to my grave and say that. And you know what? I punish my kids the same way Adrian Peterson punishes his. If they need to get a whooping, they're going to get a whooping. And if you don't agree with that, that's fine, but that's not a domestic abuse. And when he got suspended for that, I thought it was the biggest BS ever. So that's my response to that.
There you go. That's a Sunday night Q-tip.
I'm just saying, man. I thought
keeping it real, man.
I thought that was the worst punishment ever. A dude got punished, and he got suspended for punishing his kids.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man. Growing up, my dad used a belt. Like, I know the whole thing with Peterson was around the switch and all that stuff. Which if you grew up in the South, you know exactly what that is. I don't care if you're white or black. You knew what it was.
We all got the switch.
Exactly. And so, but there's a strain, or I should say, a part of society who doesn't think that any of that should happen, and that's fine. That's good for them. I got no problem. You believe what you need to believe, but I happen to agree with you on that one too. But there's some people who I'm sure will tune us out now because they disagree.
No, you know what? And that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. The other thing about it is timeout never saved anybody. Timeout never did anything.
Yeah.
Kids don't give a damn if you put them in timeout. Kids care if you punish them. I'm going to punish them every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yes. And you know what, Q, both of us as fathers, I'll tell you, and I got 4 sons, 3 of them still under the age of 13. And I'm around a lot of other parents who don't know how to discipline their kids. And let me tell you, you want to look at problems in society, you can look right there because these kids never learn right from wrong, and so they grow up to be young men and men who don't know right from wrong. So
we all got stories on what we got whooped with. I see all the comments, wooden spoons, switches, all that. Yeah, the wooden mop, all that. We all got it. Guess what? We all survived. We're okay. Yeah. We're all here today.
Oh, every once in a while I start twitching. No, I'm just kidding.
That's fine.
Dr. Jen said the wooden spoon, man, and having an Italian grandmother. Let me tell you, that wooden spoon, that was the same spoon she made the gravy with, the sauce, right?
Yep,
spaghetti sauce. Whack! And it was right across the knuckles, or it was right here, man. I'd have like a Betty Crocker spoon melt on my face, man. So I get it. I mean, I got somebody saying they got the fire poker. Come on now.
Hey, man.
Here's Sonny with the switch ones. We even had to pick it out. Now that's some next level parenting.
Yeah, that's gangster when you got to pick out your own weapon. I'll tell you, man, my dad had a paddle. He had a wooden paddle and he put 3 holes in it. The day that he hit me and that thing broke, it was the happiest day of my life. I'm telling you. And I looked at him and I still cried just to make him think that it hurt. But I was so happy that thing broke. And that was when I knew that it was over. But hey, man, it is what it is, man. That's what you get.
Learning what right from wrong. JJL, this rookie class already not looking good. Bowden traded and Muse to the IR. We need this class to step up like last year's. Yeah, but you're not going to get that out of every class where you hit on every guy. I can tell you that if you look at Henry Ruggs III, if Henry Ruggs III has a nice, good, excellent rookie season, it buffers that a little bit. But then again, if you have injury at running back, if you have injury at linebacker, then the whiffs you had in the draft, if they end up being that way, then suddenly you're going to find out that Henry Ruggs could go on and have 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns, and your class still doesn't hold up because of that. But there are other guys on there too that I think are going to do that. Q, what do you think about the rest of that class and what we're going to expect out of them in 2020?
I mean, it all looks good on paper, and everything we've been hearing sounds great about a lot of the players, but we just don't know. Again, I mean, if we had preseason games, we could at least see it and say, okay, that guy looked good week 3 against whoever, or maybe I see what that guy high point the ball, but we have no idea. We've not seen anything. That's the thing. We have not seen one stinking thing. And so the first time that Brian Edwards is going to catch a pass, that'll be week 1 against Carolina when it matters. You know what I mean? So we really don't know. So, I mean, it's tough. I think that's a really good class. But then again, I thought Lynn Bowden Jr. was a really good pick. And, now he's in Miami.
He's in Miami with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua. So that'll be interesting. And, of course, Josh Rosen, you saw where he went.
Right. He's on the practice squad. But he's on the practice squad.
I know.
Think about that. Round. He was drafted how many years ago? 2?
3.
2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah,
almost 3 seasons.
As the top 10 pick, and now he's on the practice squad.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll see what happens to him. He could be another Kurt Warner.
I mean, he could be somebody. I'm not.
He could be somebody.
Sure.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, everybody. I got Josh Rosen. Everybody else has Tanner Muse. So the show goes on is right. Raider Pat 84. The Carolina game we're going to talk about. I see some people that are talking about the Carolina game. We're going to get into that this week as we move on. We'll also Joe Person from The Athletic, who was on with us several weeks ago to preview the season, will be on with us now that the team, the Panthers, have their roster complete. We'll have him on again. Q. We'll talk about them. But again, I think the Panthers, if I can talk, the Panthers are in rebuild mode. They got a new coach, a new system, everything. So that benefits the Raiders. But you can't, any team in the NFL, you can't sleep on. And so the Raiders are going to have to prepare very, very carefully for that game because they have so many unknowns themselves. All of the unknowns going into these first weeks of the game, I don't care if you're the Chiefs or not, all these teams are going to have a lot of unknowns. And so there could be a lot of early, ugly football in my view.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what's exactly going to happen. I think everyone's going to have to kind of just work into shape. You know what I mean? That's what it's going to be. It's going to be guys out there that know what they're supposed to be doing. But again, until it's actually out there and it's real, I think we're going to see a lot of sloppy football. I think the first 4 weeks of the season are going to be like the preseason, where it's going to be really ugly football. But again, the wins and the losses, they all count.
Rosen's had more offensive coordinators than Larry King has had wives. Thank you, Kelly. That is true, but Q doesn't like that argument. Rosen, I'm telling you, man, he generates conversation either way you look at it. But the Panthers, really rough secondary. Listen, the Panthers defense is bad. That's why every draft pick they had in 2020 was spent on the defensive side of the ball. So they were terrible. They're still going to be, I think, pretty bad only because they're going to be so young. And those guys it's not like they have a veteran with them to teach them. I mean, a couple spots they do, but overall they're going to be so young. And I think, Derek Carr will have the opportunity to expose some of that. But I really believe, Q, that what we're going to see this year, like you said, is the first 3 to 4 weeks are going to be really ugly. And then you're going to have a lot of late races, meaning that when you get down to the end of the season, teams might take longer to get their crap together. But when you get down the stretch, there's going to be a lot of teams around 500 or right below 500 the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of the season that are going to get on streaks, right? I think you're going to see streaks this year much more than you have in previous years, depending on matchups and depending where those teams are. The teams that are at the bottom of the league, I think are going to get beat up really, really bad because not having the opportunity to have OTAs, to have mini camps and all of that, you just didn't get to prep a younger team or a team that just got together with a new coach or a whole new squad, and that's going to expose them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you 100%. Again, it's going to be a crapshoot. The first 5 weeks of the season. I just put the first 5 weeks for the Raiders because, again, they go on their bye week after week 5 against Kansas City. So I just put it out there, and I think that, the first 5 weeks are going to be exactly that. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I think the offense is going to have to carry the defense a little bit, but I think there's going to be a lot of sloppy football played, and so the Raiders have opportunities to steal a couple games. Now, with that being said, the other teams have an opportunity to go steal a couple games from them as well. The first 5 weeks for the Raiders are going to be interesting. Then they go into the bye week. Then I feel like they come out of it and they'll be a little bit better. They'll be kind of more, have their legs underneath them and be ready to rock and roll.
Our viewer, Greg Enzi. Greg, thanks for watching. Be honest, it irritates me to hear you guys talk about preseason importance when no one in the media ever said that before. Actually, Greg, that is absolutely not that. No, that is not true. That's not true, because when you say preseason, we're not talking about just preseason games. And preseason games to me are worthless for the season ticket holder, pretty much, because you see third and fourth string guys playing, and you got to pay full price for your ticket. But for young players, I'm not talking about preseason games, which I think you lose a little bit out on too. It's the preseason workouts that they didn't have. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about OTAs. We're talking about the rookie mini camp, the veteran mini camp, all those times when teams could get together and practice. They weren't allowed to this year. They couldn't do it. And so that's where, especially for rookies or developmental players. So if you're a Brandon Parker or a Tanner Muse didn't get to on the football field until 18 days ago. Okay. If this was a normal year, he would have been doing it back in April. So that's what we mean by that, Greg. So I hope I can clear that up. I understand what you're saying, but that's what we say when they didn't have a preseason.
Right. And the other thing about it is, even a guy like Lynn Bowden Jr., who's now in Miami, think about this. Some guys are just not good practice guys.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like Mike Mayock is saying that it's all about practice and it's all about what they saw on the football field. Some guys just don't perform well in practice. Charles Woodson was a perfect example. He said it. He let it be known. I was not a good practice guy, but when the lights came on, I was a stud. I went out there and did my thing. So maybe, if there are some preseason games, maybe the Raiders could have saw Lynn Bowden Jr. really shine during the games and then realize he just stinks in practice. And we're going to have to coach him up. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not there. I'm not in the front offices. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil's advocate that maybe that was a situation with him. But you have no idea. And you don't know because, didn't have any preseason games.
Well, and the other thing to stress here is that when you tell practice doesn't matter, it's about games. Well, yeah, but when you're a young player, it matters. When you're a young player who's never played running back in your entire career, and then you're going in the NFL and you're expected to be a contributor in year one at a position you know nothing about, guess what? You need practice. You need familiarity to get out there, know the playbook, and not just know the playbook from a terminology, which is difficult in Gruden's system, but also on the field. Where do you need to anticipate where your line pulls, where your receivers are, where your quarterback's going to go to deliver the ball? Those are all things that it's tough to get within 14 days. It just is. And so when you say practice is practice is practice, it's not true. Yes, for Derek Carr, yeah, okay, I get it. Or for one of these guys who've been in the league for 12 years, yes, Richie Incognito, he could probably do it in his sleep, okay? But for a young player coming into the league and being asked to do something they've never done before, it's huge. And we see that he didn't get enough of it and couldn't catch on as well. Fabian, you need some Allen Iverson drops. Yeah. Practice? Yeah, I get it.
We're talking about practice, not talking about a game. We're talking about practice.
Yes. And DeVell, you had to be a good practice guy because of COVID. And yeah, Mayock talked about that, DeVell, today on his call with the media, saying that, look, it's hard enough to evaluate guys, but then in a year where you had all this happen, it was really tough for rookies. It was very tough for undrafted free agents, where in a regular season where they had practice, longer practices, mini camps, and then games where they would get significant playing time because starters aren't playing in those preseason games, that gave them the opportunity to shine. I mean, we can go through the NFL examples forever on guys who were undrafted free agents who made the team because of things they did in practice and preseason games and made the final cut.
Right, exactly. I mean, it is what it is. There's so many players in the history of the NFL that say they would not have made the team. They would not have made a squad without preseason. So we knew going into this year that it was going to be a very uphill battle for a lot of players. Now, I felt really good about the Raiders because they didn't have a draft pick after the 4th round. So I thought, okay, you know what? Those guys are all going to make the squad. That's what I truly believed. And then all of a sudden, Lynn Bowden Jr. gets traded to Miami. So you know that, hey, that was an early 3rd round pick. That was a whiff, and especially when that was the guy that they put in the running back position, where I've been clamoring and pounding the table and asking for, hey, a big time running back guy who can be a compliment, not a guy that can replace Josh Jacobs, obviously, but a compliment, just a guy that could be a really strong runner, man. I mean, that's all I've been asking for, and they don't have it. They just don't have that guy.
Yeah. Raider Moore, I would say Hunter Renfrow. on the fantasy. It depends what kind of league you're in, but I think he does have the opportunity to score a lot and pick up yards in smaller pieces, but with a lot of opportunity as that Raider defense is more challenging vertical. And then you have Waller now. You have a bunch of different guys there. So I think he has an opportunity to do it. How many picks do the Raiders now have for 2021? That's a good question. I will look it up as we.
It's about 7.
I think it's
about
7.
I think it's 7. I'm not. That's off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure though.
We'll bring it up right now as we look. The Raiders in 2021 have 1 pick in rounds 1 through 4. Thanks to the Dolphins, they didn't have a 4th until they traded for Raekwon Miller and traded Lynn Bowden Jr. Then they have a round 5, 2 in round 5. So
they got 6.
6, yes, 6.
All right,
they have they have 6.
And so, I'm sure Mayock will flip that to make it 7 or 8 by the time the draft is over. But
yes,
I mean that's for 2021. I mean, what do you want the team to do in 2020?
Yeah, who will lead the Raiders in touchdowns? Prediction. Q. I'll let you go first.
Man, that's a good question. Foster Moreau.
Foster Moreau. He's a tight end though. You're gonna have him in the slot as a wide receiver.
I mean, I'm just saying. I'm looking at
receptions.
Yeah, I'm looking at receptions.
And tight ends are receivers technically. So that's good.
Look. I mean, Darren Waller was that position. You know, even though they're tight ends. I mean, you could say Hunter Renfrow. You could say Henry Ruggs. I'm just gonna go with the guy that's been there, done that. And look, Foster Moreau found his way to the end zone multiple times in 2019, his rookie year, before he went down with the injury. So I think Foster Moreau is going to be the guy who leads the team. Let's put it like that. I think he leads the team with touchdown catches.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a good, bold one. I like that. But I'll tell you what, he's in great shape. And every practice I've been to, when they're not working out, when they're grabbing a water or they're kind of taking a breather, he is next to and talking to Jason Witten.
Right.
So that's a good sign. So for those of you who...
He's smart.
He is. Can we get a Raider who could moonlight as a goal scorer for VGK? Of course, the Golden Knights, for those of you who also are Vegas sports fans here in town, they're in the Western Conference Final. They're losing 1-0 after 2 periods. They cannot score yet again. Chris, our good friend Chris Wynn. Yeah, Chris, I don't know. Maybe they get somebody out there, and we'll see what's going on. Question from Bangkok. Miller from Miami roll. I don't know what that means. Miller.
Wait, say it again.
Miller from Miami. Oh, he's talking about McMillan.
Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna start in there and he'll be rotational on the outside, right? So he'll have the opportunity to play there, and I think he's a good young player, and I think that trade was a good one. We didn't know that it was eventually going to include Lynn Bowden, but seriously, I think that they will do just fine there, and he's going to be an addition. And thanks for watching in Bangkok. Second Nova, seriously, every NFL wants to think more about depth. It's a 53-man. If running back and maybe safety are the only thin spots, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Stacey, that they are thin at those 2 positions, and yeah, a 53-man roster does make it more difficult, and it's also just a time thing. You need to develop those, and when you don't hit on draft picks or versus when you hit on draft picks, especially since they turned that roster over just 2 years ago. I don't know what people look. When I say they're not deep, that's not a criticism necessarily on the fact that they're not trying to get deeper. It just takes time. And when if you don't hit on a pick, then that takes it a little bit longer. But certainly they invested the money in the right spots at linebacker, and I'm really excited to watch that piece of it. To watch Corey Littleton, who I've been a big fan of for a long time, and then watch Kwiatkowski out there as well. I think Raider fans are gonna like watching the defense a lot more than they did last year.
I agree, and I think Raekwon McMillan, he just kind of solidifies it all. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be in there playing 90% of the time, but when he's in there in their base 4-3 defense, he's going to be out there. And he's a guy that he doesn't over pursue a play. He's a guy that kind of slow plays it, and then all of a sudden he attacks, and he's a sure tackler. That's something that the Raiders need. So I think that when Raekwon McMillan's in the game, you're going to be excited about what he does. And obviously the free agent additions are going to be big-time help, because that linebacking core was really, really bad.
Yes, absolutely. Couple questions. Raiders defensive line, I predict, as D-line goes, so does the Raiders. We mentioned that on the show, actually, Kurt. It's a combination of the D-line and the back end. Because if the D-line's doing really well, that young back end will have a lot of pressure removed from what they got to do on a daily on a game-by-game basis. So that'll help out significantly. So yeah, I could see that argument. Q, we talk about that D line and how important it is for Malik Collins to do well, for Mo Hurst to make that next step. He's got to, and then of course for Cleveland Farrell to be able to move to that inside, which they think he's done. He's bulked up. He's gotten stronger. He's gotten faster. So if that D line in the middle and on the end frees up the ends for Max Crosby to continue what he's done, and then maybe even Arden Key to emerge, then yeah, we're looking at a defense that suddenly pops up 5 or 6 or even 7 spots when it comes to defensive ranking.
Yeah, I mean, that defensive line's got to be a lot better. You know, we all talked about different additions that they could have brought in, Unique Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney at some point. You know, there's other guys that I think a lot of Raider fans said that would be a great addition to that defensive line. It didn't happen. So they're rolling with what they got. Cool. Now Rod Marinelli's got to earn his money. I mean, he really does. And I think he's going to do it because he's a hell of a defensive line coach, but he's got to get the most out of these guys. Malik Collins is going to be big. Cleve Farrell, regardless if he's outside, inside, he's got to be better. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys. Jonathan Hankins, he's got to be better. Mo Hurst has got to step up. This is like a contract year for Mo Hurst. He's got to step up and show what he's worth. There's a lot of things that play into factor, but that D-line, they've got to be a lot better. If they're a lot better, the corners are going to be a lot better. The secondary will be a lot better, and they're young. So you know that the Raiders have to really key in on that D-line and say, I need you guys to be better because we need you to help that young secondary that's behind you.
Absolutely. Watts Raider, thank you for the super chat love. We appreciate that. He says, Chucky doing a committee with Jacobs, getting around 15 plus carries. If so, running back's going to be used in the passing game more. Yes, they have to be. And they've that was the big challenge from John Gruden to Josh Jacobs, right? Q was to learn passing routes better and to get more involved in the passing game.
It is, but I don't think Josh Jacobs gets anything less than 20 carries a game. And that's just me personally. That's me personally. I think that he needs to get 20 carries a game.
Right.
And that's what John Gruden wants to do. He wants to suck the life out of the other team's offense. And by doing that, you have a very aggressive offense. So what I mean by that is aggressive on the ground. You know, have a guy like Josh Jacobs that could take the wind out of every other team's offense by running the ball and taking that time off the clock. He wants to have as many possessions as possible, hoping the defense can make a couple turnovers, but he wants that run game. I mean, no matter what you look at, no matter how good the athletes are that John Gruden has, he still butters his bread the same way. It's always going to be by the run game. It's never, you know what I mean? You don't change. Like I said before at the beginning of the show, Tigers don't change their stripes. He is a guy that wants to run the rock first and have a dominant run game. Everything else plays off of that.
Right, that opens up your vertical pass game. Our good friend Chris again on Periscope. I see Edwards playing a big-time role. Should be a Carr favorite in my opinion. If he continues to develop, I agree with that. He's a big receiver. Oh, again, thank you, Watts Raider. I appreciate that as well. Speaking of the cap, will COVID change the cap in 2021? The collective bargaining agreement changed the cap, right? And so yeah, you will see the cap change next year as well, which makes things a little more interesting too. I saw a question here somewhere about Carl Nassib, who spoke to the media this week. He better step up. Yeah, $14 million a year, Q. I would say Carl Nassib needs to show up in a big way.
He does, again, but everybody doesn't hit on every guy. You know what I mean? Like every free agent doesn't always come through like the first of the month. Every draft pick doesn't come through like the first of the month. I mean, sometimes you get guys that are great. Sometimes you get guys that aren't. I mean, there's a lot of people that are talking about Nassib because they haven't heard much about him. Maybe he steps up in the regular season, but a lot of people haven't heard much. I was excited because the fact that he knew that he was going to the Raiders to play under Rod Marinelli. He was in a 4-3 defense, so he didn't have to worry about dropping in coverage. That's what he said to the media. So that's positive. But again, it's put up or shut up. This league is about what have you done for me lately? Carl Nassib has to step up and make some things happen, because if not, then that defensive line is going to be really, really thin.
Yeah. You're going to have to, you just got to perform, man. It's the way it is. And we've seen with the Raiders, if you don't perform, at least now you're gone pretty quickly. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. Listen, guys, so much great chat in here. We appreciate it as well. We didn't get to all your questions, but you can call in tomorrow. We are going to be live tomorrow. It's Labor Day, but we're working. Give us a call between 2 and 4 p.m. Pacific time. If we didn't get to you on the chat as well here on the video, call us 702-365-9200. Just put it in your phone. That way you got it in your phone. 702-365-9200 is how you call us on the air in Las Vegas on Raider Nation Radio. So make sure you do that. And again, tomorrow we have guest Jesse Mayock from Channel 3 here in town, as well as Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated, covers the Raiders. And also we will have Josh Edwards from CBS. We'll do a little bit of a league-wide 53-man roster look in and get his opinion on the Raiders and their trade. Q, I'll just talk to you in a few hours, man. It's right around the corner as we get set for another Monday. And it's the first Monday, though, where we actually have a game to talk about after everything all of us have been through with this shutdown and all the weird happenings in this country since February and March. It'll be good to be able to talk about some real football.
Yeah, it will. It'll be a big time. I mean, I'm excited. It's Carolina Panthers is on the road. It should be a victory. I'm going to put it out here right now on September 6th. It should be a victory. There's no reason why the Raiders should not go to Carolina and get a dub. And really, with the way their schedule looks, they need to go into Carolina and get a dub and make it happen and really get a lot of confidence for the team, get a lot of confidence for the head coach, get a lot of confidence for the coaching staff, and move forward throughout the 2020 season. So, yeah, this week against Carolina Panthers, they should be preparing themselves for a victory against the Carolina Panthers.
They should, and we'll be there to talk about it. And, of course, this week we're going to have a busy week. Tomorrow, by the way, on Raider Nation Radio, there is not a morning show. It's going to be a national show. Clay and Pritch have the day off, but...
Are you serious?
They do.
The show's been on the air for like a month. Why? There's so many days off. Who does all these days off in football season?
I need
to talk to the people that work there. I need to talk to the powers that be. Because
you got to talk to Clay and Pritch. I don't know. Maybe they have.
I need to go higher than them. There's some BS going on, dog. This is what the third time that there's been major players off during this. It's only been a month that the station's been on air.
Yeah. They're asking for the call number again, 702-365-9200. 702-365-9200. Clay and Pritch. Oh, there it is. He's got this. There he is. Yeah. Look at Q with the sign. Love it. And the text line 69187, by the way, the Sam and Ash text line. So the number is 365-9200, 702. Stacy, the Clay and Pritch, yes, they're local. They are part of our team at Raider Nation Radio. So tomorrow you're going to have basically ESPN programming up until noon when JT the Brick will be in. He'll be doing his show from 12 to 2, then Q and I from 2 to 4, and then Vinny Bonsignor, of course, the beat writer for the Raiders and also a team man. He hosts In the Huddle, and he always appears on the last 10 minutes or so of our show as well. Kurt says Mad Max 4 sacks on Sunday. Wow, Kurt, that would be more than he had the last 5 games of the season, I believe. So we'll see if he starts off quick. Wasn't it? He had.
I don't want to lie to you, dog. I don't want to lie to you.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to put this up here real quick before we go. That Raiders fan is a good fan, always on here with us. I'm debating what Raider jersey. I'm amazed because I've never seen a fan base. Now, fan bases all get jerseys, right? But the Raider fan has more jerseys than any other fan of any other sport. I'm convinced of it. Don't you agree, Q?
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Like I see guys, they have like every Raider great, then they have the new Raiders, and then they have some from the recent past. It's amazing. It just goes to show you how loyal Raider fans are. So
hey, and by the way, Max Crosby had 2.5 sacks the last 3 weeks of the season.
That's what it was. Okay, I thought so. So that would be more. He's saying 4 sacks in the first game.
Yeah,
which would be an incredible start.
But he had
it is Carolina.
Sacks. He had 4 sacks in week 11 against the Bengals, though.
Yeah, Corey was right there with that too, as well. So. Kurt says, I'll give you a good deal on Jamarcus Russell jersey. Oof.
Ew.
That's not good. That's not good. All right. Well, you could trade it to a Charger fan for a Ryan Leaf jersey, maybe. Okay, Q, we're going to close it out here so we can go spend some time with our family. Listen, guys, everybody, thank you so much. And thank you to Sam and Ash for sponsoring our video show here on Sunday nights. They also sponsor our radio show as well tomorrow, 2 to 4 p.m. Remember, you can listen to it on the Raiders app on your phone. You just click at the very top. They just redesigned the app to put us at the top, Q. We're like right there at the top.
Well, it's because that's where we're supposed to be at the top.
That's right, man. And That's right. You can also listen on lvsportsnetwork.com or the TuneIn app. So you make sure you check in, give us a call. You can always tweet at us. You can always text us at 69187 on the Sam and Ash text line as well. So we'll get tomorrow. We'll get ready for the show. We'll do our Dr. Jen's Ultimate Protein Bar before we get on. By the way, take care of your cojones. Manscaped, use the code GULLY, GULLY, at manscaped.com. You get the perfect package. There's your bars. Perfect package 3.0, 20% off and free shipping. So, and Dr. Jen's SBT10. Keep all these codes. Just put them in your phone too. SBT10. And there's there's Dr. Jen. There she is. I'm sure she's watching, seeing herself in the little picture in Texas at Q's abode. All right.
It's not isn't an abode a toilet?
No, that's a commode.
Oh, my bad. Just kidding.
That's all right. They sound
I'm about to
similar.
say that would have been inappropriate. And I'm not an inappropriate guy.
They are
I never say,
wait
I
a
never
minute, though.
say anything on the radio that may make anyone get a little upset.
Oh,
Never.
yeah. Never.
Ever.
We
I'm
never
not that
get we never get emails about people complaining about what you said.
Ever.
Because
Nope.
Q is Q. Q's the nicest
Right.
guy in the world.
Exactly.
Okay, so listen, but I will say Dr. Jen's protein bars, a lot of fiber. So, the commode thing might have fit. It would have been okay. It would have been all right. All right.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
All right, guys. Thank you again for being with us. Again, join us tomorrow, 2 to 4. Mr. Your Boy, Q Myers. Q, as always, man, it's always fun talking with you. I never get enough of it, and we get to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. It's been fun. Absolutely. Appreciate everybody giving us a lot of feedback as well.
Appreciate it too on my end as well. Okay, guys, we will talk to you tomorrow on Silver and Black today, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific time. Raider Nation Radio 920 is the place to find us. We'll be there. We'll be waiting for you, and we expect you to call and hear your opinion on the Raiders 53-man roster. For Q, I'm Scott. Take care, everybody.